Okay, so this part of the class is I want to kind of go through some of the course design concept I have in this particular course to share with you what you have learned so far. And this is called a reflection of the class. And one of the important reasons we want to do reflection is in the learning theory, and we noticed that a lot of this new discovery, when you go through a course or learn something, the first time you go through it, you spend a lot of time trying to solve your problem and try to resolve some of the problematic area that you cannot understand fully. But after you go through the entire process, it will not record it to your more like a long-term memory. But if you do some of the reflection here, you will remember better from that particular class that you have taken. And you'll be doing this in several classes, especially in your capstone class. But in this class, I will be doing the reflection for you instead of you sort of like going through writing up. But hopefully this will help you when you go to the capstone class. You can recall what you have learned in the database class and fits the piece of knowledge in the whole curriculum that you have learned so far. All right. So this is probably 10 different learning objectives I put in here together. Now the first design or the course design objective is I want to expose to my student to a more complicated world, right? So I call this heterogeneous environment. And compared to many other database class, then the professor will probably stick with one platform, SQL Server, or in most of the undergraduate class, we'll be learning Microsoft Access. And we decided that we're going to be using a more complicated environment. So you learn from Oracle itself, you are exposed to three different servers. You are actually exposed to the Oracle 18G Express Edition. That is the online Apex environment that we see from the apex.oracle.com environment. And you are also using the Oracle 18C environment that we used to in the very last assignment to show you how to do this user management and environmental configuration. And from our UIS Oracle server, oracle.us.edu, that is actually the Oracle 12C, right? So it's an earlier version of the Oracle database system. So you are actually exposed to three different Oracle environments. And from the University of Arkansas environment that you are exposed to Microsoft SQL web environment. And of course, we also use some other tool. In a way that the Apex is also a cloud environment. So we are exposed to most of the modern environment as well. So that is one of the things I want to expose you to the complicated world that we have today. And for some students, it will become a confusing point because you don't know which one you're dealing with. And if you use the same mindset to deal with the same system for when you encounter different environment, that you will encounter technical problem, right? That's one. The second thing is that we are learning some of the connectivity, but not very in depth. But we learn how to use different technology to connect database to different environments. We use a SQL Developer, and in the SQL Server environment, we use Management Studio, Microsoft Management Studio, to perform the job. And you can compare and contrast the similarity and difference between these environments. So those are the number one, number two points I want to make in this course. So it's also a way that if you want to study a little more, you can survey a little bit more on the database market to learn other tools that is popular in the environment. So the third point is that we spend almost 1 month at the beginning of the semester just to learn one simple, well, not actually simple, but one important SQL statement called the select statement, right? And that select statement is the foundation for business intelligence. So we have three technical tutorials. It's asked you to write query, and actually in some other places you are asked to write query in your project, for example, as well. So query is one of the things that you should be taking away. And actually the knowledge that you have acquired in this course is more than sufficient to take the first Oracle DBA exam. So if you are interested in that, I haven't studied how they set up the exam for a long time, but in the past, the material that I used to develop this course in writing the select statement actually covered their first exam on SQL. So if you pass that, you become some sort of a Oracle certified professional or something. In the past, it's one of the three exams you have to take to get the Oracle DBA. So that is the part we emphasize a lot. And for the project and your University of Arkansas environment, the experience I want to give to you is to experience through the ETL process. So you will be taking data from some places and do some, some process or organization management, and then you move to a more like reporting or another database environment. And one of the things that you probably noticed is this process is very manual. It's actually not very, what do you call this, doesn't look very smart, right? Even though we know how to write SQL, but you are still downloading, copy and paste, and maybe checking in the Excel spreadsheet to see missing data or to do some of the data preparation job there. The good news is that there are tools out there helping you to actually make the process more smoothly. And tools like Tableau has actually some engine to help you to do that. And when you upload your data to the Apex environment, the wizard or the data importing tool, those utility are also example of ETL tools that help you to automate and actually speed up the process a little bit. But more advanced ETL process is usually done by a more experienced programmer or developer. And in that particular area, the knowledge about data structure, you probably heard about something called the JSON or JSON. JSON is actually an internet exchange data structure. It's a hierarchical structure that can be more portable to be used across database. So those are the things, and using the programming language such as Python and the standard data structure such as JSON, you can do more of the ETL process in a more semi-automatic process format. And that part is become essential. And so this part I want to kind of put this in here, says the ability to write a program or store procedure to perform ETL become a most wanted skill, if you want to call this, in data mining, data business intelligence world. Because the majority of our time in doing business intelligence or data analytics is actually spending on this particular process. It's a very boring process, but once you are more sophisticated, it requires a little bit more technical and programming coding knowledge to do this. This is not fully taught in this course because we have to spend the entire semester if needed to teach you how to write a store procedure, and that will be not the focus of this course. Right. So that's the ETL process. You have experience, but not the in-depth training in that particular category. And we also learned some conceptual concept from reading the chapter, normalization theory and conceptual modeling, ER diagram. And hopefully from these two categories, and especially for those of you who have learned database before in a traditional format, and say for example in conceptual modeling, I've emphasized a lot on this pattern-driven design instead of using the traditional entity one-to-many, that sort of analysis to construct your conceptual model. So we go directly from pattern, identify a problem, see which pattern can solve that problem, and use that pattern as a tool to simplify the process of modeling. And during the process, you can identify some of the database design problem. A lot of data quality problem can be detected through either conceptual modeling or normalization concept. So once you have those two concepts in place, it's actually a very important foundation knowledge for you to become a so-called data quality management personnel in the data process. So that's the conceptual modeling and normalization theory. And in chapter 8 and chapter 7, 8, and 9, the textbook introduced the stored procedure, trigger, and data definition, data manipulation language, and data control language. And all these language actually are used to enforce constraint on your database application from the database management system perspective, right? And one of the concepts I think it's very difficult to explain in the reflection lecture is that when we are trying to build an information system in today's environment, you typically have a choice to enforce your calculation or enforce the rule at 3-4 different level. You can enforce on the client level, which is the browser or the form showing up on your computer. You can enforce on the server level. In this case, will be on the database server. So the concept we learned in chapter 7, 8, and 9 using stored procedure, trigger, and some of the constraint rules, those are used actually enforce the calculation on the server side, on the database server side. Right? Of course, you can also enforce this in application server side, but application server is not something we are emphasizing in this course. So database server is actually what we recommended to perform all these constraints. I also want to emphasize that constraint is usually related to your business rule. How you're going to be conducting business is usually enforced by the system through the constraint in your database. In the very last assignment, you learn some user management, and we go through the process of assigning role and configuring the pluggable versus container database. So, the reason I know most of you have completed assignment 10 at this point, that the concept of containable container database and pluggable database is not that intuitive from if you never have a experience of managing database, but it becomes very logical that you can group the users and these interest group, right? So if in the organization, say company, you may have department. So in order to separate their responsibility and the data they have access to, you probably assign each department into each one of the pluggable database. And so those mechanisms, pluggable database, user management, and how do you assign role and privilege is the mechanism we actually use to control and manage the system. So it is actually a management topic. And I don't know if you noticed that the name of our course is actually database management. So everything we learn at the end is you are actually learning how to manage the actually three different parts. One is managing the user that which have access to the database. The second part is to manage the resource. In this case, resource include data and your infrastructure, your network and this environment. And the third part is more difficult to understand. It's called the managing the process. So you're actually managing the process, policy, procedure of how to set up all these things together. One typical example will be some of the things we learned in chapter 9 when we are trying to learn this called the locking mechanism to prevent the system lock or concurrency management. So those are the policies set up in organization to make sure you have a process to resolve some of the conflict it might arise when you have wrong people access the wrong data at the wrong time. Right? So that process management, resource management, and people management are the things that need to be concerned in any system. But in database system, that we are learning some of the detail that how you're going to be doing that from the environment we are exposed to. And you also learn a little bit about system and network configuration from various assignments, the virtual environment, then how do you configure that virtual environment, set up the server, starting the service, and how do you access the web server, building a web page, and how do you use the Oracle configuration tool to configure it the network connectivity, learn the concept of listener. So those are what you learn in network configuration. And of course, the last one we are going to be doing a little bit today and a little bit before the Thanksgiving break is talking about the future of database technology and actually IT in general. So that is pretty much a quick summary, probably 20-minute summary of what I think you should know from this particular class. Hopefully, if you go through this summary, you remember a little bit more. And in the future time, you may get a sense of what you're going to be learning when your career requires you to do certain things. So I'll start the recording here for the first part.